Hi everyone, I'm Lindsay McNally with CCI Toronto. And last week you saw me check in with Mark Balla, or rather Mark checked in on me to see how I'm doing and how my life has changed with COVID-19. So we thought we'd start a fun little video project where we spread good cheer instead of the virus, as all of the industry professionals are working from home. So I have with me today Luis Hernandez from Shively Wright and LLP, a condominium lawyer. Hi Luis.
Hi, Lindsay. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I hope that you're doing okay weathering the storm from home.
As as much as everybody else, I would say, I'm trying to do my part, but yeah, very fortunate. At least I can continue working from home. So
Yeah.
spending a lot of time here at my computer in this room.
Yeah. And you live in a condo. So what's the atmosphere like where you're living?
So it's very interesting because um, I live in a building that is comprised of more elderly people than your occasional downtown condo, and we're actually attached to a retirement home. So we're very cautious. You don't really see people leaving their units. It's a very quiet environment. So it's usually that way, but it feels more so in these times, which is a bit strange. But I think there's a lot of precautions being taken, and I'm very comfortable with the way that at least my board, my property management have handled the situation.
That's really good to hear. It's super important to protect our vulnerable individuals right now, right?
Absolutely. And it informs the staying in this room a lot, right? You just
Yeah.
don't want to leave. Why put anyone else at risk?
Yeah, not making use of that litigator's bag that you have behind you, right?
Not really, no, not so much.
Yeah.
uh, right now it's this chair.
So I had a bunch of
So that's
questions.
basically.
Yeah, I had a bunch of questions I wanted to ask you. And, not making use of your litigator's bag is sort of brings me to a really important question that I think a lot of people have on their minds. And that is, if I had an urgent legal matter that needed to be heard in court, with the courts all closed, what do we do?
So it's the courts are mostly closed, but there are still matters that are being heard, and they're being heard in a way that is being prioritized. So urgent matters are in fact being heard more quickly, more urgently. And we just received a practice advisory this week that starting next week, they're going to start opening up the types of matters that they're going to be hearing, but they're going to look for more technological ways to um, deal with the matters so that you don't have a lot of lawyers and individuals going to court in these times. So the legal system is looking for ways to modernize to make sure that um, everything kind of keeps rolling, even if it's at a slower pace. But urgent matters are being heard still.
Right. And beyond that,
Yeah.
how is your firm adapted to social distancing with everyone working from home? Are you staying connected with your team to stay on top of the information related to COVID-19? What's sort of happening?
Well, one of the reasons that we had to actually move back our call today a little bit was because our team was having a Zoom chat. So our entire group, and when I say our entire group, I don't mean just the lawyers, also our support staff. So we're very fortunate. We've got a great IT team in our firm, and we were able to shift to working from home very quickly. So I think I'm going on my fourth week now that I'm working from home, even before it became mandatory, and even as an essential service, which lawyers love to hear now, at least for the time being. Um, we were able to adapt quite quickly and try to avoid being in the office as much. So there's a few rotating staff that come in just to deal with anything that's urgent and needs to be dealt with in person. But my understanding is that we're having between 3 to 5 people into the office a day at the most, and most of us are working from home. The adjustment was a little easier for some of us than others, but I think we're up to speed now, and we're a few weeks ago, so it's pretty nice.
Good. So aside from being at home working, what other changes are you seeing in your day to day? Are there different types of matters that you're dealing with, or is it mostly business as usual?
No, it's definitely one of the things that I love about this practice is the diversity in the practice to begin with. So I find that we go through phases in the practice. That we went through the short-term rental Airbnb phase, where that was the hot topic. We went through marijuana. Right now, obviously, I think the biggest concerns are all related to COVID-19. But some of the other stuff still chugs along. There's still business as usual in certain respects. Like you pointed out earlier, I live in a condo. Earlier this week, they shut down the water for the whole day because we were replacing the heat exchanger. And it was something that affected half the building and couldn't be put off, unfortunately. And luckily, it all went off without a hitch. We received a lot of communication and warning and preparation options. So any other day wouldn't have felt it. We would have gone to work, come back, and it would have been done. But in these times, it was very noticeable. But I think we're doing okay.
Good. Have there been an increase in different types of complaints happening? I mean, aside from opinions that you need to give related to activities surrounding COVID-19, with everybody at home, are you seeing an increase in compliance files relating to things like noise and smoking?
So I don't know that I would say that I've seen an increase. They definitely still exist. I would say that in my experience so far, most people have been very respectful about the situation ongoing. And I say that in grocery stores, I say that in buildings, even when you go for a walk. And I would say the same is mostly true in condos. I haven't seen a rise in them. However, there have been a few cases where you've got individuals who are used to going outside and smoking or going for a walk, and they're not, or people who are like whole families who are at home throughout the whole day with children, and that is just inherently creating more noise. But I'm finding most people are a little bit more tolerant of it as well. So I would say business as usual on that front. Definitely still have a couple noise and smoking matters that I'm dealing with at the time, and I'm sure more will come.
Yeah. And what about social distancing? I know there's a lot of concern in condo buildings about people who should be isolating and maybe aren't, and how that should be, how that should be enforced. What kinds of stories are you hearing, and what advice are you giving related to them?
That's probably one of the hardest things going on right now. The ability to move freely is something that's so natural that these restrictions are very difficult on everyone, and it's a tough situation, and it's case by case. But I know personally, I've dealt with a building where you had an individual who advised that he tested that he was positive, and property management and the board made every arrangement to make sure that that individual was able to properly quarantine, get all their supplies, get all their food. But even then, the person kept leaving and kept, didn't go around touching everything, but still kept leaving the unit. And it was a difficult situation to deal with. What made it worse was that individual was a tenant as well. So not only are you dealing with the tenant, you're dealing with the unit owner, you're trying to respect privacy and talking about healthcare, and it becomes complicated. But in terms of advice, report to your public health authorities if it's applicable. Obviously, the go-to advice a lawyer is going to tell you is talk to your lawyer and, figure out what your personal circumstances are, what your building circumstances are. But there's, communication is key right now. And I'm sure you know that better than anyone else. You guys are in the throes of a communication frenzy because we need it. The government is changing opinions day by day. Lawyers are changing opinions day by day. And, that's really all you can do at this point. Try to keep your finger on the pulse and see what new developments the day brings. Yeah. And communicate that to our clients.
I think it's important too, the way that you communicate, right? Because not everybody has the same understanding or capacity for understanding as everyone else. And the term social distancing is sort of it's a new term. It's like a buzz term that's been created as a result of COVID-19. So, communication about staying a certain distance apart and not leaving your unit without specifically referring to social distancing, I think can be helpful for some people and some communities in achieving better compliance.
Absolutely. And I think each community knows itself better than anyone else could. So you've got communities that are predominantly made up of individuals from a particular background. Leverage those connections. If it means that you have a high population of individuals that speak a different language, maybe put out the notices in those different languages. And I love your comment about social distancing, because the concept is evolving so rapidly as well, that people are going from social distancing to physical distancing to preserve the social aspect of it. And right now we're physically distancing, but we're socially connecting. So, I couldn't agree more that the communication is key. It's probably one of the most important parts of this whole pandemic, really. And you see that from the top down at the federal level, provincial level, municipal level, and that fourth level of government here, which is condos.
Yeah. And more so than communication, I think that the connection is really important to maintain, especially during hard times, making sure we check in on one another, making sure that everyone's okay. And I really appreciate you taking the time to sort of spread some good cheer and some good information with me. And I do hope that you'll pay it forward and we'll spread that instead of spreading viruses. So just stay home and stay safe, okay?
Well, thank you. I will definitely do that, and I'm sure you'll be seeing me soon.
Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, talk to you soon. Bye.
This is Tanya Halleck, the president of CCI Toronto. CCI Toronto can help your condo achieve social and financial success. Thank you for listening.